guys, it's Dr. Morey, Uncivilized Vitality. We're in the local park, so there'll probably be some background noise. Just use the trees. So let's say you throw up your tarp. We do a lot of videos, a lot of talk about ridge lines, quick deploy ridge lines, different knots you can use to set up a ridge line. And something I don't get to go over very often is the corner tie-outs, right? So in this case, I've thrown up a simple A-frame, screwed up real quick, and maybe it's a little warm out, and I want some, what is that, plane? Like a conspiracy. Anyway, let's say it's a little hot out and I want to throw up a little ventilation, lift the corner up. I'll attach the end of my bowline on the corner loop here with just a quick toggle. Throw a clove hitch around my, say, a trekking pole or just a piece of stick. And we'll go over the tie-out options for the loop or the grommets on your tarp in a second. Let's go down and talk about the stake. So I'm using, yeah, you can come in real close because I'm going to show them down here. Right now I'm just using Paramax, so it's a little easier to tie than paracord, and you can see the knots. Typically what we'll do is we'll go around the stake. We put our stake in the ground and we'll go around the notch. And then the usual thing is to use a taut line hitch. Okay, over this. I have to go through 3 times. Taut line hitch is a type of like a friction hitch, almost like a prusik. And then once you've gotten that barrel made and those 2 or 3 turns, and you come outside and put another turn above, tighten that up. Now you've got a taut line hitch, and you can slide that barrel up and down the line to tighten it up as needed. Okay? So that's one way to do that, to attach to that. That's usually the one we use. There's a couple other ways you can attach to your stake. If you've already got the kind of the distance laid out, and a good one is the pile hitch or stake hitch. So I'll get down about as far as I need. I'll take a bite, maybe I haven't put the stake in yet. I'll take a bite. I'm going to go around the stake with that bite, and then I cross over the 2 legs of my running end and align the 2 parts of the bite, and I flip the tip of the bite, the loop, up over the stake. Now I've made what's called a pile hitch or a stake hitch, and then I can stretch my stake out as far as I need and drive that down into the ground, and then I've tightened my line up. So that's called a stake hitch or a pile hitch. All right, I show you that one again. It's pretty simple. Let me get this little cordage out of the stake here so you can see what's going on. Another option, like I keep these little reflective loops in my stakes, in my metal stakes or my titanium stakes. Sometimes I just use a little carabiner to clip in, or I use that as a loop. Right. So the pile hitch or stake hitch, I take the length of line out about as far as I want the stake to go down, grab a bite, go around my stake with the bite, crossing under the 2 legs of the bite that went over, cross it, loop over, slip it over the top of the stake, dress that knot up a little tighter, and then I've got a stake hitch or a pile hitch, and then I can put my stake down in the ground and my line's tight and ready to go. Okay, so that's a good one to know. The taut line hitch, the benefits there is it's adjustable, and maybe my stake's already in the ground. I planted the stake and I can kind of tighten up as the wind comes, or I'm fixing my shelter up a little tighter. Another option, the one I like, if I don't have a stick, or maybe I'm flying a tarp and I want my tarp to be out a little further, I've driven my stake in, I take my rope, and I've got my bowline in the end. Okay. Usually have the cord tied, and this would be paracord, but the Paramax you're able to see the knots. So I've got a simple bowline in the end. What I'll do is I'll come back about maybe a foot from the bowline, and I make 2 wraps, and then I take a bite of the standing end and tuck that through, and then tighten that up. Now I've made a simple hunter's noose, okay, just like that. Okay. What I'll do from here is I've got the bowline, that hunter's noose, I'll slip the hunter's noose over my stake, just tighten that down. Then I run my free end through the loop or the grommet on my tarp. And then I take that free end back down here, run that through the bowline that I pre-tied, or any loop really. Then I can use a trucker's hitch sort of action and just lock that off. Lock that off with a half hitch. Right, and that'll kind of tie that down. I like that one sometimes. It's pretty quick to get rid of. I pull the trucker's hitch out, pull the loop free from my tarp, pull my stake up, just take my stake out of that loop and the hunter's noose, little pull, and then all I'm left with is the line I usually start with, which is a 6-foot piece of paracord with a bowline in the end of it. Okay, so that's a couple ways to attach to your tarp with the noose and bowline, make a trucker's hitch out of it. Let's grab the end here of the tarp, talk about ways to attach that. All right. So you can come in a little closer so we can see this. So usually what we do, like I said, most of my tie out lines, I use 6-foot pieces, or sometimes I use 12-foot pieces of very reflective paracord. Orange, or right, like a safety orange or a pink or something that's anything that's offensive and garish for your tie outs. That way somebody doesn't trip over it. But normally I have a length of cord with a bowline already tied. I'll slip, the quickest way I do, I slip that over the loop, and I just throw a toggle or a stake and pull it out, and now I'm attached to my tent, ready to go. If I'm using that hunter's noose bowline combo, at the stake end, I've set that up, and then I'll just run the free end through my loop or my grommet, and I'm ready to go. Okay, those are usually the fastest. And then if I use the bowline at this end with a toggle, then I've got the taut line or pile hitch at the other end. If I use that hunter's noose bowline end down there, and I just run the free end through here, I just have to slip through there. But here's another knot that we can use called a lap knot. Okay, now you can throw a sheet bend in here and go through this loop. We all know the sheet bend. Come up through the loop, I circle under the loop, and then I pass that free end under the standing end and pull down, and I've just made a sheet bend, and that's attached that line. Then I can use a pile hitch or a loop or a bowline or anything at the other end. Okay. The problem some of you may have discovered is the sheet bend is this can, wet tarp, wet rope, stretch over 2 or 3 days, can really be a pain to untie. So we're going to use a knot. I'll do a separate knot showing you how to tie this called a lap knot, which is short for Lapland. I'll just take a little bit more through. I come around like I'm doing a sheet bend, but instead of tucking it under the standing part, I'll tuck that bite down through the loop and then pull it tight. Okay? This is called a lap knot. Some people call it a false sheet bend or some other kind of sheet bend derivative, but it's a lap knot. And then the good part is I just pull that tag end and it just falls right out, no matter how heavily it's loaded. All right, so that's a couple different ways you can tie out your corners to fly your tarp. You can use, if you have your 6-foot or 12-foot piece with the bowline in one end, if you end up with the bowline up here as you unravel, just throw a toggle through that and use a taut line hitch or one of the other anchors, the pile hitch at the other end. If you're setting out your rope and you end up with your bowline at the other end, come about a foot up from your bowline, wrap the line twice around your fingers, take a bite of standing end and tuck that through, and then pull on your bowline, and you get what's called a hunter's noose. Okay? Now with this, on this little setup, you just slip this end of the noose over your stake, slip it over your stake, tighten it down, drive your stake, run your free end up and through the loop or grommet on your tarp, come back down and just run that like a standard trucker's hitch. Tighten the guy line up or your corner tie out, tighten it up, and you're ready to go. Then when you're done, pull your stake out, give it a quick tug, the knot collapses, and you're right back to breaking down or setting up your tarp really quick. So that's just a couple ideas for corner tie outs. Try those out next time you're on one of our Uncivilized adventures and see what you think about those. Oh, and check out that up close video on the lap knot. And let's see what else. So that's it. Subscribe to the channel, share the channel, leave some comments, hit the notification bell, do all the algorithmic stuff that we need to do to get this channel funded, as this is one of the main sources of funding for our nonprofit charity, the Uncivilized Living Foundation. All right, so that's it.